So to answer that question, man, it's going to be situational dependent. I can't really say children should always go with a mother or a father. They should go with the primary custody should go.
Hello, welcome to the Pop Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Chauncey Julius. Pop Talk Podcast exists solely to eradicate fatherlessness. Our mission is to sharpen, salute, and encourage fathers to show up. Fatherhood is not a solo sport. It is a team sport. Together, we can eradicate fatherlessness. So today, I know that we've been away for a while, but we are back and we are charging with a head full of steam, man. We're ready to give y'all some great content over the next coming months. And so today, I'm really excited about my guest. He's a great friend. He's none other than David Alvarado. Just a little bit about David. He was born in the Bronx, New York. He lived in Lakewood, New Jersey, and Columbia, Tennessee, which is where I'm from. And he enlisted into the U.S. Army. Throughout his career, his military career, he completed a number of assignments, a number of combat tours, and he retired in December 2019. David is married to Miss Melinda Alvarado, who is also an Army veteran. And together they have 5 children, Alexis, Nicole, Janelle, Maylene, and Michael. And they reside in the Northern Virginia area. Got a whole bunch of achievements, y'all. He's a member of the National Society of Leadership and Success. He has an Associate's of Applied Science in Administrative Management Studies. He also has a Bachelor's of Science in Organizational Leadership from Columbia Southern University. He is a 4-time combat veteran and a recipient of the Bronze Star Medal. He is also 2-time president of the PHA Masons fraternity, and he serves as the treasurer. And so, man, this is my man, 50 Grand. He is a good friend of mine. We actually go all the way back to high school. We are classmates, class of 98. And man, a fun fact, we also was in a rap group called The Embassy way back in the day, man. So he got some bars for you too. And so I'm really excited to have David on for an interview today, man. I think he's going to have some good nuggets. We're going to talk about a variety of things ranging from blended families to co-parenting and just what it's like to be a dad in the military. I think you're in for a treat. David Alvarado. Let's get to the interview.
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? David, you are here. It's been a long time coming, man. We've been talking and talking. We finally were able to make it happen, man. Glad to have you on Pop Talk, bro.
Man, thank you for having me, bro.
We go back a while. We go back a long ways, man.
Yeah, we do.
We got you here. And we're talking about fatherhood, right? We're trying to raise this awareness around this topic of fatherlessness. We're trying to encourage fathers to step up and show up in their children's lives. And man, your dad, I just want to throw the question at you. What springs to mind when you hear the word father?
When I hear the word father, I really think about, protector, provider. And I really think about my own pops, and it's funny that you asked this question because I think it was like last week. I was going through my phone trying to get all of my pictures out, and I saw a picture of me, my dad, and my grandfather. And it was one of the last pictures I took with my grandfather, and I was a private in the Army. I was like 18 years old. And I was like, look, there's 3 generations of Alvarados there. And I took something from both of those men. And I definitely wouldn't be the person that I am today if I didn't have those 2 influences in my life.
That's awesome, man. I know that's one of the ways that I define, I have a couple ways in which I define masculinity, manhood, and fatherhood, but man, definitely being a provider and a protector. And then with the spiritual bent that I have, being a Christian, is being a priest as well, being the spiritual leader in your home as well, being the spiritual point man. It's not perfect, but just making sure that you're leading your family.
I think you can fail at a lot of things as a father, but you can recover. But if you don't protect your family and you don't provide for your family, those are like those no-fail missions, man. You can't fail at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about even in the Bible where it talks about a man that doesn't provide for his family is like worse than an infidel, right? Then so like, man, you got to be serious. You talk about your grandfather, you talk about your dad. What ways did they shape you as a man? What ways did they shape you as a father as well?
I really didn't recognize this until I was like a seasoned adult. Everybody talks about, oh, when you're 18 or you're 21, you're an adult, but you ain't really an adult until you seasoned. And I didn't recognize it until I was further on in life. But my father showed me what culture was. He showed me what diversity was. And he really showed me what it was to be a man taking care of a family. And that stuck with me, because growing up, I always wanted a big family, but it comes with responsibility. You got to take care of the family. So Absolutely. When I look at my kids, I'm looking at my father taking care of me, busting his butt at work all the time. He worked at Saturn. So he was putting in a lot of hours, and I always tried to figure out why, but he wanted to take care of his family. And he's a big influence in my life, man.
So that rubbed off. How did that rub off on you? What ways did that show up in your own father and in parenting?
So being in the military and being a dad, it's rough because you have to try to balance, being a good soldier and being a good father. And my dad found that balance, and he tried to give us a better life than what he had growing up. So in turn, that's what I did. I pushed to do better than my parents did.
That's good.
And I instill that in my children now. You have to do better than I do. We have nice things. God is really good to us. If you want to continue that, you have to be better than me. You have to push really hard to do that. That's how we bring generations of success, is by pushing and keep pushing. So my dad, I attribute all that to my dad.
That's powerful. Man, what's your favorite TV dad? It's a question I ask all my guests. What's your favorite TV dad?
I seen that. You always asking that, and to be real with you, I don't watch a lot of TV. And growing up, I didn't watch a lot of TV. But and other people have used this answer, but Uncle Phil. I mean, how could you not pick Uncle Phil, right? And
exactly.
Looking at it now, it's, Fresh Prince was kind of corny, right? But I could relate. I could absolutely relate to the dynamic in that household, because I saw a little bit of my situation where you had a kid who was having a rough time, and you took him out of that bad situation and put him in something better. And you tried to instill in him values. I remember one episode, Will was talking about going to school, and he had to go off on his own, and he was telling Uncle Phil, I'm just scared of letting you down. And Uncle Phil was like, you ain't letting me down, man. I'm proud that you made it this far. You don't know what I think. I'm super proud of you. And, I probably need to tell my kids more. I'm proud of them. That there's one thing that in looking at Uncle Phil that I always thought to myself was, Will wasn't his kid, man. Will was not his biological son, but he was raising a man. You know what I mean? Now for me, I got 4 girls and 1 boy. But he took in that kid, and I got a unique situation with my 5 kids, and I feel like I emulated that a little bit.
Man, the way you break it down, Uncle Phil's parenting, his father, got me wanting to look at some more Fresh Prince of BelAir, man, from the Uncle Phil perspective. Man, that's a unique perspective. You think about it, he was raising a man, and he treated Will like one of his own. However, he just had a different approach when it came to Will, right? Yeah. He knew what type time he had to be on with Will based on where Will came from.
Was an investment. Will was an investment in the future to him. He wanted Will to succeed because Will was an investment. children are an investment. You know, there are a lot of things, but as you parent, you're investing in future. You know, those are going to be the future doctors, lawyers, politicians. We're investing in them. So that, I think that's how Uncle Phil really, really coached Will. He was investing in him, and he poured it all into him. So
yeah.
Today, you know, we look at role models today, right? And I like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV. Uncle Phil was a role model. You know, he was fictitious, but he was a role model. Now today, you got any number of rappers, you got any number of celebrities that kids are trying to emulate, and I think we need to take that step back and look at what our kids are using as role models. And like Uncle Phil is, you know, he was a top role model, other than my family members. So yeah, you know, it was a sad day when it came off air.
It was, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you're not sad that it's over, happy that it happened, you know? Yeah, it's just, man, it was good. I was arguing with someone, not fighting, but online the other day, a guy that I served with in Iraq, I think it was doing my third tour, and he said something online. He was like, the Fresh Prince of BelAir is so overrated, you know? So I was like, oh, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's the sacred cow. That's the golden calf. And so I was like, man, I had to defend it. But, you know, you think about it, I guess it was kind of corny, but in the moment in time in which it exists, right, when it was live, now it's in syndication and everything, but the moment in time and when it was released, it was something that our community needed.
Absolutely.
Right. And I won't even just limit it to the Black community, but for the demographic that it was written for and for who it was speaking to at that time, man, it was gold. It was TV gold. You know, I mean, he looked like us, he talked like us, he dressed like us. And, you know, they found ways in between the corniness, right, to drop gems and to speak to our lives.
It was tailored for us, you know, and it focused on real world issues that, you're right, our demographic would have come up. Like the same thing with Family Matters. You know, I think about Family Matters too. They did talk about some real things on that TV show. So I don't, not that I watch a lot of TV, but I don't know if they really have that anymore.
I agree, man. I agree, man. We need to bring corny TV back, man. Corny TV served its purpose. I want to make this transition into your story. Let's dive into your story. You kind of touched on your relationship with your dad and your grandfather. Let's kind of tap into your experience as a father, as a military dad, serving 20 plus years in the Army, going on multiple deployments. What is it? Is it difficult being a military dad?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's always a pendulum that you have to balance in fatherhood, right? You have a professional aspect of it, right? You have to provide, you know? So in the military, it's a job, you know, and you serve. So I think, honestly, my pendulum was off for a long time, you know, because I equated being a good soldier to being a good father. And I made a lot of mistakes growing, you know, throughout my career, just trying to balance that pendulum, because military life, unlike the regular workforce, you soldier 24 hours a day. If they call you in the middle of the night, say you got to go in, you going in. And I think the pendulum was really unbalanced, and it wasn't until I retired that I really recognized it. See, because being a father isn't just coaching, training, mentoring the youth. It comes with appointments. It comes with parent-teacher conferences. It comes with all those little things, and I pushed them off to my wife because I was trying to be a good soldier. And it wasn't until I retired where I was like, dang, I missed a lot. And did I really have to miss it? You know? And
wow, that's honest. That's real honest.
it is because, I think we've had this conversation before, but there's a million books on parenting, a million books on it. There's a million dads you can talk to, but every kid is unique. Every kid has a different situation, and you're going to have to approach it a different way. So it's not written down how you're going to do it, man. So you really need to try your hardest to balance that pendulum. And I think being in the military, it made it really hard. It's really hard to be a good father and a good soldier. You have to find that balance, man. And luckily I had a better half that kind of picked up the slack. And
Absolutely.
I don't kick myself in the butt about it anymore, but I definitely recognize it as an error I made on my part. And I'm not scared to tell it to my kids. They don't hold it against me, but dad was in the Army and I was doing things. Sometimes I didn't make the right decisions. Nobody's always going to make the right decision.
Right.
So balancing the pendulum in a military life and being a father, it was real difficult.
Question, and are there a lot of programs, are there a lot of conversations surrounding how to be a better father in those military circles, on post, and in that military lifestyle? Are there a lot of conversations being had about how to be a great dad?
It depends on who you have in your circle. As far as formal training, not that I was aware of, at least back in 98 when I was coming up, right? But it all depends on the circle that you keep. I have a good set of friends, and we shared just today. We were sharing some parenting issues that we're going through and how we cope with them and how we mitigate, obstacles and stuff like that. One phrase that the military has that I've never liked, and I never said it to any of my Joes, was the military didn't issue a family. I never liked that phrase because although it's true, the military didn't issue you a family. The military doesn't make decisions based off of emotion either. It's always based off of mission. So you could be having a parenting challenge, but you're trying to balance that pendulum of being in the military. And the Army as a whole was not concerned at that time about your family. It wasn't until later on in my career where it was a big push to recognize families as an important part of a soldier's career. I think it's getting better, but I don't really think there's programs out there that help you be a successful father. And that's why I applaud you, man, because from the moment I saw you were doing this, I was like, man, this is something that needs to go out there. I'm real proud that you're doing this kind of stuff, man.
And thanks, man. Thanks. We just trying to really raise awareness, just not in the military community, but in the country, just raise up this discussion, about fatherhood, that it's not a solo sport. It's not something that should be done behind the scene, right? We need a team. We need a community. We need to rally around one another as dads, right? And rally all the support and all the resources to equip our dads to be the best dads that they could be, right? Because I think about being a young private, right? Think about being a young private. I've seen this time and time again as an NCO when I was in the Army, where you got this 19, 20-year-old, got a kid, maybe 3 kids and a wife, and you're trying to support them on a private salary, right? And not only that, but feeling like you're in over your head as a father. Like, man, not only am I supposed to give 110% to this organization, this 200-year-old organization, but I'm also sworn to give 100%, right? Sworn to give 100%. But at the same time, I have this obligation and this duty and this mission over here as dad. How do you balance that? How did you balance that?
Making mistakes, man. making mistakes. You know, that's really how I learned to balance it. I think we had this conversation before too, but throughout my career, other than being stationed at Fort Campbell, I was pretty close to my parents living in Columbia, but I didn't have a lot of family members around, like in the immediate area, to kind of coach me, help me, train me. So it was difficult. So I had to make a lot of mistakes before I got it right. And I'm still not getting it right all the time. You know, now instead of raising a whole bunch of little kids, I'm trying to raise adults. And you know, parenting don't stop. Fatherhood don't stop when they turn 18, man. You still gonna have them challenges. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to deal with different situations.
That's powerful, man. I think that's a that's a tweetable moment right there, man. Fatherhood does not stop when they turn 18, man. I like that. I like that. So it sounds like you're saying that you missed the mark, man, on several occasions, you know, throughout your parenting experience. Tell me about an occasion when you missed the mark as a dad.
I'm always going to use this example, man. So it was quite a few years ago. It was Christmas Day. And I got up, got ready, you know, getting ready for the kids to come downstairs and open presents. And I got a call from work. And they said, hey, man, such and such happened. And I went in. I didn't really need to go in, but I went in and I paused Christmas so I could go in, take care of something, and come back home. Luckily for me, there was no traffic, and I got back really quick. And my kids probably don't even remember, but it ate at me for a really long time. I really missed the mark on that one. Because again, I didn't balance that pendulum right.
Wow. What about making that choice ate at you?
It really ate at me because my father always tried to be there, even if he couldn't be. And, you know, I had a challenging childhood. I came from a home where my mother and father weren't together, and he lived in Tennessee and I was living in New York, but he always tried his best to show up. Even when it was hard for him, he was trying to show up. And as much as he struggled to show up, you know, hundreds and hundreds of miles away, I was right here and I didn't show up on time. And it ate at me. He taught me better than that.
So it sounds like in your economy and in your value and character system, showing up means a lot.
Yeah, it does. Man, when I retired, bro, I made a promise to myself. I'm not going to miss any of these events anymore, no matter what's going on. No amount of work. You know, I got another job when I retired. No amount of work. Nothing is going to be as important as being there for my kids. You know, as challenging as it might be, my son's in basketball now. I ain't missing a game. It ain't going to happen. You know, I'm going to be there, and he going to hear me in the stands rooting him on.
That's good. That's rich. Did you have any ideas about fatherhood that were proven wrong after you became a dad?
What I will say is I did not know the emotional intelligence you needed to be a father. And I say that because, you know, I remember a long time ago, I was on my skateboard and I fell, and it was the first time I got the wind knocked out of me. So I thought I was dying. My dad walked up to me and he was like, all right, Papa, get up. He was like, you're good. Walk it off. And he said it with such confidence that I knew I was okay. Now I fast forward, and I was talking to my daughter one time, and I could tell something was wrong with her. And I'm looking in her face, and she just started crying. And I didn't know what to do. And I hugged her, and she was upset about a boyfriend. And you would think, as a dad, I'm not going to let that bother me. But seeing my kid hurt me. So I really wasn't prepared for the emotional intelligence that you need as a father. I thought it was going to be easy, but it definitely is not, you know?
Man, that's a really, really good point, man. I think his name is Jason Wilson. He's really speaking to this space a whole lot. The bald black guy with the gray beard, the glasses, like he does the karate, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes, man. Man, really speaking to this space as far as emotional intelligence, really men feeling their emotions and being emoting better. And man, you bring up something that's really a challenge for me as well, as far as being emotionally intelligent when it comes to my son. So glad I had a daughter first, because I feel like if I would have had a son first, I would have ruined him, man. And there's still some challenges there. However, that having a little girl, it forces you to slow down. My mother raised three boys. My mom and dad, they raised three boys. I'm used to being around guys. And so, I have a harsh bent, tend to have you talk about that two-sided glove, one side velvet, one side iron. I think mine spilled over, a little of that iron spilled over on the velvet side for me, man. And so being emotionally savvy and sensitive and slowing down and really picking up on your children's emotions and what's happening, and not just telling them to, like you said with your dad, no shot at your father, but, suck it up, drive on, right? Yeah. That's the worst thing that we could say.
Yeah. And you know what? When it goes into mistakes, I say, hey, man, I've made a lot of mistakes growing up. I've said that. I've said, hey, suck it up. Come on, let's go. And, looking back, that wasn't okay. And what really brought it out, real talk, is COVID. A lot of parents are spending more time with their kids, because even if things are starting to open back up, things aren't all the way open back up. So kids are at home, you're talking to your kids more. And right. I'm finding that some of the stuff that I'd blow off when I was a kid, it didn't bother me. It bothers kids now. And I have to understand where they're coming from. They didn't grow up like I did. And I'm glad that they didn't, but I need to slow down and really think about the things that are bothering them. The days of us saying, just do what I say because I'm your dad.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yeah. Those are gone. Yeah. That's over with.
No, you really need to look at the world and understand that you're going to throw your kid into this new world one day. You have to equip them. You have to protect them. It doesn't end when they turn 18, man.
That's right, man. I got a video that I'm getting ready to drop, and by the time I drop this video, maybe it'll be out there. If so, you can watch it right here. Let's say like that. You can watch it right here. And in it, I say that I talk about how there was back in our grandfather's day and age, man was just expected to bring home the bacon. If you was bringing home the bacon, throwing it on the table, providing for your family, protecting your family, you were good to go. But I feel like the modern man is the modern dad and the modern father. We're called to be more. We're called to be to give more, right? To be present more, and to know more, right? When it comes to when you talk about the emotional intelligence and dealing with our children from that sense. Oh yeah, that's some good stuff, man. We might have to have a whole show on that by itself, man. That's some good stuff you bring up, man. Man, what makes fatherhood so important to you? I get this sense like, man, listen, I made mistakes when I was in the military. I was trying to work that pendulum and make sure that it kind of stayed in the middle, and I appeased everyone. And from that, I get this sense that fatherhood is important, even with adult children, right? With children who are transitioning out the house or transitioning into adulthood. Why is that so important to you? Why is fatherhood so important to you?
Fatherhood is an investment, and it's an investment into society, but it's an investment for me as well. And it sounds funny, but you know, some people have phobias, right? I have a phobia of nursing homes. And I tell my kids all the time, you ain't sending me to no nursing home. You know what I mean? You're gonna take care of me because I'm taking care of you. I'm gonna give you that extra nugget of information that's gonna make you successful so you can take care of me. You know, it's kind of like the circle of life. My dad did it with my grandfather, you know. It I invest in my kids. You know, I feel a a responsibility to invest in them. And again, I don't always get it right, but I'm always gonna try to make up for it. They don't even know that I'm trying to
rich.
make up for stuff from back in the day, but I want to make sure they're good when I throw them into the world. My oldest is 26. She just finished her last class for her bachelor's degree in psychology. And I'm still calling her, talking to her about life, about investing, about this, about that. And it's important to me. It's something in your heart. It's like faith. Sometimes you can't prove it, but you believe it.
Right.
It's the same thing with fatherhood for me. I can't prove to you how important it is to me, but I know I feel it. And I'm going to do everything in my power to be a good dad.
That's powerful, man. You talk about making mistakes from back in the day. Let's go back in the day, man. And we probably should have started with this, but we could roll it back, man. We could rewind real quick. What's the story of how you became a dad? Was it planned? Was it unplanned?
Bro, I don't know if
you
got enough time on your podcast for this. I mean, I feel like
well, give us the condensed version.
I feel like I got a unique story in the fact that I was 20 and I got married to my ex-wife, and she had a daughter, and she's still my daughter. Then I had a daughter with her, and then 9/11 happened, and it was the first time. I think my daughter might have been 7 months old when 9/11 happened. And I left in September of 2001 for almost a year. And I came back, and that reintegration period was really rough because, you know, you walk into the door and your kid don't know who you are.
So the chaplain briefing before you left country wasn't enough.
No. So, you know, I was really a kid who got married and had 2 kids in a very short amount of time. And unfortunately, you know, I thought I was going to be a statistic. You know, me and my ex-wife didn't work out for whatever reason. And I didn't want to be that dad that just sent the check or just saw my kids whenever. Nah, man, I wanted them to know that I loved them. And I tried harder. I met my wife now, and we ended up having a daughter together, and she already had a daughter who, by the way, one of the proudest moments as a father for me was she turned 18 and changed her last name to Alvarado.
Wow.
That meant something to me. That's probably one of my proudest fatherhood moments. She did that on her own, and it speaks volumes to, you know, somebody like me who's like, man, I had that much impact on somebody. And we had me and my wife had a daughter, and then we had a son right after. And I was like, wow, you know, I got 5 kids, you know, I'm trying to make it on, you know, specialist pay. I mean, it was rough. It was really, really rough for a long time, man. And you just had to be committed to being a good father, a good caretaker, a good provider, a good protector. And you just got to make it work.
And so what, around 9/11?
Around 9/11.
Became a dad, and
yeah.
Okay. And so let's go back, though. Let's go back. You said that your daughter, when she turned 18, she changed her name, man. Let's go a little deeper there, man. Like, what impact did that have on you? What did that speak? What did that act, that one act of going down to the courthouse, what did that symbolize? What did that say to you?
It gave me some affirmation I was doing something right. Because really, as a father, you don't know you're really doing the right thing until something like that comes along, until you see your kid graduate high school, when you see your kid graduate college, when you see your kid do something great in sports. You don't get that affirmation that you're really doing something right until something like that comes along. And it was her own choice, and I never took it to the courthouse. My wife did, and it wasn't a surprise. I knew she was trying to do it, and I'm gonna tell you, you ain't gonna get me all emotional on the internet, but
we trying, man.
no, I ain't gonna be that one.
Oh, Pop Talk, man.
But she submitted all the paperwork, and we got a letter in the mail from the courthouse, and we thought this was it. We gathered around the island in the kitchen, and we opened it, and it was denied because she didn't sign something right, and it was heartbreaking. But then she went and did it, and she signed in the right spot, and it went through. And it's a real proud moment for me. It gave me a lot of affirmation that I'm doing something right.
Wow, that's special. That's special. That's awesome, man. Wow, you got me about to. Maybe I'm gonna be the first one to tear up on Pop Talk, man. That's good stuff, man. You got 5 kids, correct?
Yes, sir.
5 kids, man. You've been around the block a few times with this fatherhood thing. Tell me, what advice would you have for new fathers, for new dads out there that's getting ready? They about to have their 9/11 moment, right? They're about to have the moment that changes their life or the rest of their life, right? And they're about to become a dad, man. They're significant others in their 3rd trimester. She's about to pop it any week, man. They're about to become a dad. What advice do you have for that individual?
I'm not gonna say the obvious, right? Like, you don't need to state the obvious about you need to have a job, you need to be able to provide.
Right.
I will say, don't be closed-minded. And I think kids in our generation growing up, our parents were a little bit, their aperture was not as open to new things, right? So, hey, you're going to do it this way because this is the right, it's like college. Growing up, college, you had to go to college. College was a big deal.
Right.
You were not going to be successful when you graduated high school unless you went to college, right? Or you joined the military. I chose to join the military because I didn't want to go to college. And then kind of find out you had to go to college to get promoted. And they don't tell you that part.
They don't tell you that part.
But don't be closed-minded to certain situations. I mean, I have some real conversations with my kids, especially with the current environment and social injustices. I sit at the dinner table and I listen to some of my kids talk, and I'm like, I never really looked at it from that perspective. And if you have your aperture really closed, they're not going to want to talk to you. One of my daughters told me and my wife one time, although you do lecture us a lot, you always tell us why you made a decision. You always explain it to us. And I see value added in that because I want them to know I heard you. I may not agree with you, but I heard you, and you're validated because that's the way you feel. Now, I'm not going to let you go too far left or too far right on what you're doing if I know that it's going to cause you some hurt later. But you got to listen. Don't be so closed-minded. Don't be narrow in your thinking. You got to adjust fatherhood with the times, man. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things going on in this world that we didn't necessarily have to deal with. So
I agree.
You want your kids to want to talk to you about these things. Politics is a big thing. I want my kids to sound intelligent when they talk about politics, because I listen to some folks talk and they're not really talking, they're arguing. It's not healthy conversation.
Right. It's not healthy dialogue. It's not open lines of communication.
I want my children to know how to voice their opinion in a manner in which people respect them, and they're not going to.
They may not agree, but they
may not agree.
Yeah.
But I want them to respect everybody's opinion on it. So, just my advice to new fathers is, other than the obvious stuff, open up your aperture a little bit. Don't
I
be
love
close-minded when certain situations come to you.
I love that word picture of a camera's aperture, right? That I love that, receiving in light and not shutting out. Like I love that word picture. That's a dope word picture. All right. Gotta ask you this. You know, I was in the military, you was in the army, I was in the army. And you see all types of fathers. You see fathers who are under the same roof with their children. You see fathers who are, 8 states away from their child, right? You see actively involved distant dads, and then you see deadbeat dads as well. Yeah. But you do see a lot of fatherlessness in the military, just sometimes the nature of the military kind of lends itself to fatherlessness because, you're not there. However, I know that child support comes out with a lot of folk if, your chain of command catch wind. But the question that I have for you is, what do you think of the state of fatherlessness in the military? I've never asked anyone this question before, but I thought you'd be the perfect one to ask.
So in the military, you are right. There's all types of dads. Just like in the civilian world, there's all types of dads, except in the military, you're held more accountable.
Come on now.
You are really held. Obviously, you're a representative of, the United States, right? So
absolutely. You're an ambassador.
Yeah, you are going to be held to a higher standard. But with that, you are held accountable for things that you do in your personal life in the military. So there was one story that was super impactful to me, and this was in like 2002, 2003. I had a soldier come to me and say, hey, Sarnay, I'm having an issue. And I said, what's up? And he was like, I just got divorced from my spouse. I have 3 kids. She moved to Massachusetts. And I was like, okay, are you doing okay? I'm trying to talk to him. He wasn't really my soldier, but I think he just felt like he could open up to me.
Right.
And he said, I just got, a court order for child support and I can't afford it. And I was like, well, how much is it? He told me the amount. I couldn't afford that. And I was an E5 and he was like an E3. And unfortunately, he had to be chaptered out of the military because he could not afford his child support on the pay that he got in the military. But the Army didn't keep him in. They knew that he had an obligation, so they had to let him go.
They had to let him go. That's a tough call to make.
It is, and he was a good soldier. So what I will say, that the military does hold you more accountable for fatherhood,
right?
Because they can dive into your personal life.
Yeah. And what looks like, a career suicide coming to you and going to your chain of command and saying, hey, listen, I got child support, something that I can't pay. Army releases you, but that's actually a good decision. That's the best of the 2 evils, right? Because it's like, listen, we're about to release you so that you could earn as much income as you can so that you could meet this deal.
And it's not that we didn't try. The first option was not to kick him out.
Right.
I got him a meal card. He got to go to the DFAC, so he didn't have to pay for food. He sold his car, and guys in the unit were driving him to work. They were picking him up and dropping him off. We tried absolutely everything so he could save up, because he didn't want to get out of the military.
Right.
He just couldn't be in the military. He was not going to be able to meet his obligations as a father. So we had to let him go. And
this is good. These are the conversations we need to be having, man. These are the conversations that I'm talking about that need to be had about even within the military community, right? how is leadership helping dads be the best dad that they can be, right? Like this story is profound, you know, and you don't hear stories like this every day. You go through Google, you go through YouTube, right? And you type in military dad. What do you see? Surprises, right? I'm popping up in surprises, and those are good, right? They make us feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I showed up to my daughter's cheerleading game, right, during halftime, and I came out and I surprised her, right? They have their place, but there's other ways that military dads are showing up. And this is a prime example. One dad helping out another dad. Yes, you're NCO, but man, just to hear that, like, man, you're going through all the different steps to help this dad show up for his family and still be in the military.
You gotta have some care and compassion for other fathers, man. Like, at one point, I was losing sleep over this kid. You know, I'm looking at him and I'm like, I may not be living the best life in the military because, you know, I got a lot of kids. I don't make a lot of money. But I really felt for that guy, you know, because he wanted to be a good dad. He also wanted to be a good soldier, and he just couldn't have them both, you know, and it's just really unfortunate. And you know, I hear a lot of, and I'm not saying, you know, your interviews or whatever, but I think I mentioned this to you. A lot of the times when people talk about fatherhood, they tell people the things that's what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, show up. You're supposed to say, put your kids first. You're supposed to say, listen to your kids, but are we actually doing it? No, I'm here to tell you, I have not met the mark more than a handful of times. And that's how fathers learn. At least that's how I learn. You know, I listen to
that's
other
honest.
That's honest challenges. You know, unfortunately for me, I got a really small circle, but you know, I have other fathers out there that aren't ashamed because you know, men aren't the easiest, or they're not the first ones to ask for help. You know, and I have a circle that I could be like, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm having this challenge with my kid. I don't know if I'm making the right decisions. And I listen to their experiences, and that's what gets me over that hump. You know, they provide me some mitigation to this problem that I'm having. And in the military, they understand a little bit more. And it really, it wasn't until I retired and became a federal employee that, you know, I had to have some coaching on this. Leaders aren't the same. You know, I have a boss, and, you know, from 9 to 5, he dictates what I do. You know, he gives me tasks and stuff like that. He doesn't have to dive into my finances. He doesn't have to dive into if I'm taking care of my kids. He doesn't have to dive into, are you providing food to your family? But in the military, you have to do that as a leader. So I'm constantly checking on soldiers saying, hey, like, what are you doing at home? Like, how are your finances? I'm teaching people how to read their LESs, you know? It's a different
the check stub for those who aren't military, part of that military community. That's your LES is your leave earning statement.
Yeah, that's a pay stub. That's a pay stub. But in the military community, it's really good to have that support network of fathers, because they're going to understand a little bit better. There were some challenges when, you know, throughout my career that I was having as a father that unfortunately I couldn't bring to my dad, because I don't want to play stump the chump with my father. He didn't understand the military culture. I had to ask another military dad. And I've been fortunate to have some good mentors, good mentorship, some good dads that I can count on for some sage advice.
That's good, man. That's rich. And I think that you could speak to this piece. Should children stay with their mother or their father after a divorce?
I think that's situation dependent. And I tell you one thing that you know I heard growing up from my grandfather. He used to say it in Spanish, so it translates a little bit different into English, but it was along the lines of, "You're always going to know who your mother is. Your father can be anyone." To a kid, you came out of a woman. That is your mom. You know,
Man,
but,
I don't think I've ever heard that statement before.
But
Grandfather dropping some gems.
Yeah, but your dad, you have no idea really, you know, who your actual father is. So I believe that came about because a mother's influence on a child is something that you can't replicate as a father. You can't do it. I don't have the care and compassion that my wife has to give to my children, right? But there are certain households that a father is absolutely capable of doing that and maybe better, you know? So
yeah, shout out to my man Kyle Stewart. You do that. Kyle, I don't know if you will ever see this video, but Kyle Stewart, man, you are great at nurturing. Man, you and Mariah are killing it, man. Salute to the Stewarts out there in Oklahoma City. I'm sorry about that, man. That's
good.
my homie.
Give your shout outs, man.
Yeah.
I think it's just situation dependent. I remember honestly, I watched Shadow's interview, and he was talking about co-parenting.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. He was talking about co-parenting, and it's not always that easy. You know, it's really not. And mothers and fathers, when they separate, there is some angst there, even if it's the most amicable situation. There is still some angst.
There's still some tension. There's
always going to be some tension there, and you have to try not to let that bleed into your children. So sometimes it's going to depend on who's the most mature adult out of that relationship as to where the children go, you know, because you definitely don't want to put children in the hands of a mother who's going to constantly badmouth the father, right, to the children. But you don't want to give kids to a father that's going to badmouth the mother. So you really have to take a look at that dynamic, because that leaves lasting impressions on children. So to answer that question, man, it's going to be situational dependent. I can't really say children should always go with a mother or a father. You know, they should go with the primary custody should go to the parent that is most capable of not only the financial means, but the emotional means of taking care of a child.
That's a sound answer. That's a sound, a wise, prudent answer. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Man, let's land this plane, bro. Let's land this plane. Man, you know, I gotta ask it. If you could hop in the DeLorean, if you could put on the self-lacing Nikes, right? Like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, and hop in the DeLorean and go back to your 18-year-old self. Man, what conversation would you have with 18-year-old David Alvarado?
Chauncey, you knew me at 18, bro.
I know. Hey, y'all, if y'all don't know, man, this guy was dropping bars at 18. He's a rapper. Once a rapper, always a rapper.
Yeah.
And we was in a rap group. That may be a whole nother episode that we need to talk about. But yeah, man, we was both 18 together. I graduated high school at 19. So yeah, we was probably there together. I know it'd be an all-out fight with my 18-year-old self. We'd be fighting because he didn't listen.
So, you know, it goes into something that I have to remind myself of when I'm talking to my spouse, right? When I'm talking to a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old, a 26-year-old, when I'm talking to them, they don't have the 41-year-old mentality. They don't have that same experience. They haven't been through what I've been through. So when you explain things to them, you know, you want to shake them. I'd want to shake my 18-year-old self, but I don't know if it was going to go through. You know, I really don't know, because it's not until you make some mistakes where you really know the azimuth you need to go, you know? So you can,
That's good.
I would tell my 18-year-old self, hey man, still join the army. You know what I mean? I'd tell myself to slow down. You know, I'd also tell myself, hey, learn how to balance that pendulum, because that was really hard for me. As a father, is just trying to balance things, you know, balance a lot, man. You know, some parents want to be cool with their kids, you know, and I'm a relatively younger dad, right?
Right.
I consider myself pretty cool. I got some Yeezys, you know what I mean? But at the end of the
That
day,
makes you a cool dad, man. If you rocking Yeezys,
yeah, you know, but
you got 90% cool cover.
my kids don't think that, but they I want them to understand that mistakes are going to be made on both sides, man. And I'm not proud to go back to my kid and say, that wasn't the right choice. I'm sorry. You know, no knock against my dad. You know, I don't really remember any adults while I was growing up saying I'm sorry for something, because you don't want to go back on what you said, because it makes you feel like, you know, you have a less of a power base or something. No, I'm okay with telling my kids I'm sorry I messed that up, you know, because they know that, hey man, there's no playbook to this fatherhood thing.
It isn't.
There is no playbook, so sometimes I'm gonna lose the game, but you know, I'm gonna go back and try to win that championship, you know. And
that's good.
That's how I look at things.
That's good, man. I think that's a good place to stop, man. I think that's a good place to end. And man, David, man, thank you for so much, man. I think we got so much more out of this than I expected, man. Wow, man. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your knowledge, man. And just thank you for trusting us to just share your story, bro. We appreciate having you on the Pop Talk, bro.
Oh man, like I've told you every time I talk to you since we reconnected, man, I'm super proud of you, bro. I am super proud of you, man. So
and proud of you, man. Proud of the man that you've become, man. You know, we were in the high school hallways with baggy pants and puffy coats and hey, what, and headbands, and just, man, listening to Wu-Tang, man.
Yeah,
trying to put some bars together, man. And now look at us, man. You know, we're in our 40s, early 40s, and you know, man, leading families.
We still got a
long way to go. My wife was just telling me that, man. I went to the dentist and, you know, they saved some teeth in my mouth, and she was like, yeah, you need those teeth. You got a long way to go. And I was like, that's one way to look at it. But yeah, man, got a lot of life ahead of us, man. And man, you're an awesome guy. I know you. You're an awesome guy. You're a genuine guy. And man, I believe that your family is blessed to have you as dad, as husband, as friend, as advisor, as confidant, man. And I appreciate you being on the show, bro.